Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari Gopi Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana 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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavrajikashari Astasata Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Mayapur Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Gangamai ki jai. Yamunamai ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaura Panimananda, Hari Hari Bolo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga and His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Would somebody be willing to do the mouse? Yeah, it's here. And if you needed to, you could take this. If you don't want to move, you could always take this or whatever's easiest. Okay. Thank you, sweetie. Manye Krishnam Cha Ramam Cha Praptav Iha Surotamau Suranam Mahad Artaya Gargasya Vachanam Yata. So we're reading from the 10th canto, chapter 46, which is Uddhava visits Vrindavan, and this is text 23. I'm going to do 23 and 24, but we'll do the first one responsibly. Manye Krishnam Charam. Let's see. Manye Krishnam Chara. Manye Krishnam Charam. Manye Krishnam Charamam Cha. Praptaviha Sorotamau. Praptaviha Sorotamau. Suranam Mahad Artaya Gargasya Vachanam Yata Manye Krishnam Charamam Cha Praptaviha Surotamau Suranam Mahad Artaya Gargasya Vachanam Yata Manye Krishnam Charamam Cha Praptaviha Surotamau Suranam Mahadartaya Gargasya Vachanam Yata. Devotees, anybody? Manye Krishnam Charamam Cha Prapta Viha Surotamau Suranam Hadnartaya Gargasya Vachanam Yata. Manye Krishnam Charamam Cha Praptaviha Surotamau Suranam Mahadartaya Gargasya Vachanam Yata. Anybody else? Manye, I think. Krishnam, Krishna. Cha, and. Ramam, Balaram. Cha, and. Praptau, obtained. Iha, on this planet. Sura, of demigods. Uttamau, two of the most elevated. Suranam, of the demigods. Mahat, great. Artaya, for a purpose. Gargasya, of the sage Garga. Vachanam, the statement. Yata, as. So translation, in my opinion, Krishna and Balaram must be two exalted demigods who have come to this planet to fulfill some great mission of the demigods. Such was foretold by Garga Rishi. So we can repeat. In my opinion, Krishna and Balaram must be two exalted demigods who have come to this planet to fulfill some great mission of the demigods. Such was foretold by Garga Rishi. So there's no purport, and I'm going to chant 24 because it's kind of two thoughts together and a small purport. So Krishnam Naga Yuta Pranam Malau Gaja Patim Yata Avadishtam Lilayaiva Pushan Eva Mrigadipaha. After all, Krishna and Balaram killed Kamsa, who was as strong as 10,000 elephants, as well as the wrestlers Chanur and Mustaka, and the elephant Kavalayapida. They killed them all sportingly, as easily as a lion disposes of small animals. And purport? Here Nanda means to say, not only did Gargamuni declare that these boys are divine, but just see what they have done. Everyone is talking about it. So Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we're in a part of the Srimad Bhagavatam where Uddhava has gone back to Vrindavan, and he's in this conversation with Nanda Maharaj. And so as Uddhava arrives to Vrindavan, he's been cared for greatly as a guest, had his feet washed and honored, offered food stuff. And then Nanda Maharaj starts to inquire about Govinda, Krishna, and Balaram, because he wants to know what's going on with them. And you hear all these questions, like one after the other coming out. And what you can see that in these questions and what's built into that are these constant memories of Krishna and all these wonderful activities that are happening in Vrindavan. And it's interwoven in all these different questions, and it's like they're constantly in his mind and in his heart. And what this is showing, or at least what stood out for me in thinking about, watching this conversation take place and these exclamations of all these pastimes, is that it's giving us the example and showing us of what it's like to constantly remember Krishna and never forget him, because they are constantly remembering, always never forgetting. He's always in their heart, their mind, their body. Every activity is centered around for them. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the commentaries of these two verses, and then I'll go into a little bit more. So this is 23, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur shares that by the sudden recollection of Krishna as the Lord, in contrast to his natural production of affection and separation, Nanda speaks with a sense of discrimination. These two sons have appeared in my house, Iha, by the good fortune of myself and Vasudev, for the welfare of the Devatas, Suranam Artaya, such as killing Kamsa and other demons. This according to the profound word of Garga. And then Jiva Goswami shares, these commentaries about the thoughts on this exchange and what's happening, is that Nanda again recollects Krishna's power, hoping to cover his sweetness, since he fears that if he suddenly manifests his sweet form and strengthens his heart, it will be a cause of suffering because of the affection arising from thinking of him as his son. Or he speaks of his power with a desire to glorify him as a natural result of special affection arising from the separation. That is described in 4 verses. I think that the 2 boys are some great persons equal to Narayana, who have made an appearance of being born in my house, Iha. This statement is an expression of Nanda's natural and internal affection for Krishna and Balaram as his sons. And then Sanatana Goswami shares, overcome with pain, Nanda considers that the cause of his pain is his affection. Thinking of Krishna as his son, in order to pacify his heart, he covers that conception of Krishna as his son, or he speaks in misery, thinking that he should be ignored because of his low position and Krishna's high position. The 2 words cha indicate equal importance of Krishna and Balaram. Both of them are most merciful and affectionate to their friends, but we are not worthy of being recognized. Having come to the material world, Iha, Praptau, they are Hari and Hara, Vasudeva and Sankarshan, or the 2 outstanding members of the Chaturvyuha for benefiting the Devatas by relieving the burden of the earth. Should they not give benefit to us mortals as well? Or, among Devatas, they are the best Devatas, Suranam Suratamau. They have appeared in this world to benefit the devotees, Mahad Artaya, the Yadus, not us devotees. This is a statement of extreme misery. Or, he made us happy by his pastimes, but by giving us up, has produced the opposite result. He must be some Devata with some other mission. So we're hearing all these dialogues and these thoughts that are going on potentially as to what's going on in Nanda Maharaj's thought process. And you can see so very clearly how there's so much depth to their thought and their relationship and their exchanges with Krishna and trying to figure him out and, what their relation and how they're expressing all of that. And it's really just amazing. And then he shares as to what Garga shared about these 2 great personalities. In conclusion, therefore, O Nanda Maharaj, this is Garga speaking to Nanda, this child of yours is as good as Narayan by his qualities, opulence, fame, and influence. You should protect this child very carefully. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.19. The 2 have come to Vraj to help the Devatas by killing Putana. They did not come to give us happiness, for by giving us up, they have created great suffering. The previous happiness is just pain because of the extreme suffering. And then the commentaries for the next verse, which is 24, are really just descriptive, so I'm not going to get into that. But in thinking about these exchanges and what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswami have shared, of this intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godheads, Krishna and Balaram, and how much love and affection and this constant remembrance of, and always remembering and never forgetting Krishna. I came across this wonderful purport by Srila Prabhupada given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Madhya, chapter 22, text 113. And Prabhupada shares, there are many regulative principles in the Shastras and directions given by the spiritual master. These regulative principles should act as servants of the basic principle. That is, one should always remember Krishna and never forget him. And then, this is possible when one chants the Hare Krishna mantra. Therefore, one must strictly chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra 24 hours daily. One may have other duties to perform under the direction of the spiritual master, but he must first abide by the spiritual master's order to chant a certain number of rounds. In our Krishna conscious movement, we have recommended that the neophyte chant at least 16 rounds. So again, this is like what's built into and what gives us, what delivers us, what's the key to opening our heart, getting rid of all the anartas and the unwanted things, and having this 24-hour 7 engagement with Krishna is this chanting of the Maha Mantra. That's what opens the heart, and again, such a reminder that we have so many duties, we have so many to-dos, and all of those are important because they're devotional service. We're doing those to serve, and that's, important that we do those, but the top priority is this chanting of the Maha Mantra. And I remember, because it was very early in my practice of devotional service, and I very distinctly, I can't remember the exact conversation, but I very distinctly remember my spiritual master talking about all the different things that were going on, different challenges that were facing himself, the devotees, everything, day-to-day stuff. And the one thing he said was, but I know what my priority is. And that priority was chanting the Maha Mantra. So significant, so important, is, what this happened, because it's non-different than Krishna. Our whole relationship is embedded in the chanting. So the attentiveness and the affection and, the sankalpa, the intention that we set in the chanting of the Maha Mantra is what gives us and delivers us from all the unwanted things, and also, ends in the result of having this relationship with Krishna 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just imagine what that's like, right? Of just having Krishna, as your best friend. And that's something else my spiritual master, His Holiness Spirit Krishna Goswami, shares, is that he loves the Maha Mantra because he knows that he's got his best friend with him at all times. So, this chanting of the Maha Mantra is so significant. And I was thinking how there is no other fix for our heart. There's no other fix for the mind and its wandering around and its machinations and, judgments and designations and, challenges and pains and sufferings and happiness and all these things that are, built into all the covering. There's actually no other fix for our minds, bodies, none, solely and except for remembering Krishna. And the way we remember Krishna is through this chanting of the Maha Mantra, right? And there's so much contrast too, because the other thing that I was thinking about is the contrast that there is in having this loving relationship, because we see the residents of Vrindavan and in the spiritual world what that relationship looks like, that constant remembrance looks like. So we know what to look forward to. We know when we're not really there, right? It's like this wonderful example of giving us what it is to have this relationship with Krishna, in contrast to where we are, at least speaking for myself, and that challenge. I mean, one of my greatest desires is to be so connected to Krishna that two things. One, that there's nothing that can affect me, that can take me away, that will, bring up my old, conditioning, my mentality, my judgments. I want to get to that place where I'm so connected to Krishna that I don't have any doubts in myself. I don't have any doubts or judgments of anything, in other people. And, I'm, purely seeing through the lens of Krishna consciousness. And then the other thing is being purified in that way, then seeing how I can serve others in a way that's going to benefit them the most without me getting in the way, my false ego getting in the way. I'd really like to get to that place where I'm thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day, 7. So I've been meditating on, and what this stimulated for me is, what it means to really love Krishna, because, at least speaking for myself, and, we have this conditioning of and definition of what it means to love somebody or to have somebody love us. And the love that we have with Krishna is very different. And so we're in this process of redefining what love really looks like, right? Because in general, it's a transactional relationship in the material world. It's like, if you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. But even still, if there's this loving affection between, people, then there's still all these expectations. And if you don't fulfill all my expectations, then you get frustrated and you get angry. And, you know, and the reality is no one in this material world is ever going to be able to fully satisfy all your expectations. It's just not going to happen. But on the other hand, you know, what does it mean to do? Because I've thought about it, you know, Krishna, I really want to love you, and I need your love, you know, so that I can be satisfied. But in my mind, I still have all these definitions of how I expect him to love me, right? You know, because, you know, maybe I want him solely to myself. You know, I don't want him, it's my territory, don't touch it, you know. I just want him to myself. But what's so amazing about love of Krishna and what separates him is that he has the ability to love every single living entity, human, animal, doesn't matter, whatever, you know, amoeba, atom. He has the ability to love, has that much love to love every single living entity without leaving anybody out. You know, he has that ability, he has that power. You know, he has that purity of love, and that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to that place where we're not really thinking about what we're going to get out of this and making it a transactional thing, but what we can do, because that's what real love is what can we do to please Krishna? What can I do? You know, and be enlivened by that. And what's amazing is that Krishna will fulfill all those desires, all those expectations, and will be fully satisfied. And it's so contrast to what we're used to and what we're, you know, used to thinking as far as transactional interactions, interpersonal interactions, is we're always having that expectation of some kind of return. And yet we're trying to, you know, reverse that psychology and love Krishna without any, you know, expectations of return. But what's amazing is that we do get that return. We do get that affection. We get that satisfaction. And, you know, we get that, you know, get totally fulfilled in these things. And so some of the things I've also been reading a book that's one of my favorite books is Yagyasini, which is a book written about the Mahabharata war from Draupadi's perspective. And it's definitely written by a devotee because you can, you know, see Krishna consciousness throughout the whole thing. It's just like, you know, totally amazing. But one of the things that stood out for me, and there's some of this dialogue in here that's really amazing as far as some of the obstacles we have and a little bit of Krishna's mood and what we have to do. You know, we're going to be, you know, it's important to chant the Maha Mantra. It's, you know, important to do devotional service, have the association of devotees, and, you know, develop our Krishna conscious, do reading and all these other things. And yet, it's also important to be very introspective and do self-analysis. And one of the things that Krishna doesn't tolerate to any degree is any level of pride. He just, I mean, we're not going to be able to go back unless we're purely rid of every single ounce of pride. And so there's this wonderful interchange that's going on with the Pandavas as they're getting ready to go onto the battlefield. It's right before the battle takes place. And so I'm going to read a little bit about this because it's the exchange exemplifies, you know, what it looks like to expunge that pride and, you know, get rid of those things in the heart. The 14th night of the dark fortnight, a huge circular field of 5 yojanas was the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Here on either bank of the Hiranyavati river were the Kaurav and Pandav camps. The ominous silence preceding a storm prevailed all around. After the night, the rays of the dawn would shine on Kurukshetra. The great war would begin. My dear brother, and this is from Draupadi's perspective, Drishtadyumna was the commander-in-chief of the Pandavas. Grandfather Bhishma was the chief commander of the Kauravas. My presence in the Pandava camp was absolutely necessary, for I was their wife, their inspiration. With victory marks placed on their foreheads by me, after looking upon my auspicious face, they would embark on battle every day. However, after this I would depart for the secure tents made for the stay of women. Therefore, without me, the Pandavas would become powerless. In my subconscious mind, pride was lurking. It was natural for any woman to have such pride. My husband's had more than one beautiful wife. My dearest husband, Arjun, had many among his wives, including the sister of Saka Krishna, Subhadra, too. But here no necessity had arisen for their presence, so I was the best among all the wives, incomparable in my chastity, despite having married 5 husbands. My mind's pride was being reflected on my face. Laughing, Saka Krishna said, Saki, I've been watching you since evening. You are looking most thrilled, not a trace of fear or apprehension. Are you not terrified of war? Proudly I said, I am a Kshatriya woman. Moreover, I have many husbands. Is it improper to hold the belief that all will be well with my husbands? After all, it is faith that is the key to success. Saka's teeth gleamed with laughter. So is war inevitable tomorrow? Although I had given my word to drive Arjuna's chariot in the Pandav camp, at the last moment I've backed out. They will not face any problem. What can they fear? Many heroes are on their side. Beside them is so inspiring, chaste and faithful wife Krishna. No sooner than Krishna's word ended, than terror and despair overcast the Pandava camp. The Pandavas were seated around Krishna. Downcast, Arjuna said with folded hands, Saka, what is the fault of this unfortunate one? Why such words of despair in the final moment? Even if you do not fight, still we have taken refuge with you. If you are not on our side, then where is there any question of war? Ultimately, we will be ridiculed. What is my fault? In a deeply hurt tone, Saka said, Krishna, you have no fault in this. The fault lies in my principles, and this is really significant. I have ever remained on the side of Dharma and truth. To destroy falsehood, pride, is my dharma. The pure heart is my station. But it seems to me that we who are preparing here for war have kept some secrets in our hearts. For the sake of truth, I am ever cruel. Therefore, I shall be compelled to be cruel and return to Dwarka tomorrow morning. And Krishna's cruelty is actually compassion, because what he's doing is he's trying to root out any last sense of pride and purify the minds of the Pandavas and Draupadi so that when they go onto the battlefield, there's no misconception or pride skewing what their purpose is, which is to serve Krishna in this battle. And so what ends up happening is that each of them has to share that secret within their heart and get rid of that and expunge that, and get rid of that last pride and expose it in front of everybody, so that they can actually be held accountable, right? And so this is fiction. Please understand, it's not like it's absolute, scripture, but it still shows, what has to happen in order for us to have this loving relationship and actually to do what Krishna wants, do it lovingly, doing it with a mood of, wanting to do it and not being involved or tied into our own mentality, and giving that up so that we can go out and fight, the battle of daily life and get rid of all these unwanted things and, ultimately shine through and share Krishna consciousness with others, set dharma and righteousness into the material world. And so, I found that it was just, pretty amazing. There's another statement, too, that Krishna shares, because at this point, everybody's been killed, and Gandhari has just cursed Krishna. And so there's this afterthought of, what's happening and in other words, there's this small reflection of what it looks like, in the necessity of getting the pride and what the heart looks like. And it says, become vast, lose yourself in the being of the Creator. Then whatever your sorrows and grief be, you will be able to overcome them. The significance of life will be realized. So again, to become vast, so in other words, become totally absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And through that, all your sorrows and all your grief, you'll be able to overcome. Because if you look at the Pandavas, and especially Draupadi, having to lose her sons, lose all her brother, her father, all family, everybody lose so much loss of life, this pain and torment. But her taking shelter and the Pandavas taking shelter, us taking shelter, is how we'll overcome anything, how we'll be centered and grounded and equipoised, like not affected, over-affected by happiness, not affected by sadness or depression or all these other different things that can challenge us. And then the significance of our life will be realized. That's, the real significance of, and being able to, so that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing in this process of practicing Krishna consciousness is, and getting to this place where, we're like Nanda Maharaj is, he hasn't seen Krishna. There's this deep, separation. He's going through these shifts of trying to hide his real devotion for his sons. He doesn't want that to come up, because then he has to realize that intense separation, because there's been so much distance. And so he's trying to be a little bit more formal, and at the same time, that formalness is like expressing all these different pastimes and his valor and all their qualities and, the killing of all the demons. And so how can that not take him back into this whirlpool of love of Godhead and all the different pastimes and going over? And that's what it looks like, to really be in love with Krishna. And so just some final comments of, thinking about how this applies to us and how we get there. And obviously, the center, the root of getting to our heart of hearts and our soul of souls and that pure place of loving Krishna is the chanting of the Maha Mantra. So taking that so seriously and so intimately, and just like it says, is that's what Prabhupada, shared, is that always remember and never forget him, and that this is possible when one chants the Hare Krishna mantra. So that's what's giving us this. So in addition, there's this need for determination. We need to stay determined, because there will be so many challenges. It can be a slippery slope. It's like walking on a razor's edge constantly. But with the spiritual master's instruction of chanting the Maha Mantra, and with his constant input and instructions as we walk along that, then we can, in his association through his determination, stay on the path and not be waylaid, and then get delivered to this amazing relationship, with Krishna. And then, and having that determination, then we can, follow the injunctions of the scriptures, do the dutiful, and, do the duty, and follow the, the rules and the regulations, to build our strength. And that's what those rules and regulations, like the 4 regulative principles and all the, injunctions in the Shastra, are to build our spiritual muscles so that we can walk that tightrope and that razor's edge, perfectly balanced. They're there to support us, not to limit us and to shut us down and just, be attachments or, heavy us out. It's really to build our spiritual muscles, those things, so that it's like learning to play piano. You have to do exercise after exercise after exercise of running the scales up and down. Same thing, my background is in dance, and we had to practice the steps over and over and over again to give us that core strength to, to be able to play spontaneously, and that's the same for devotional life. And so then, when we do with determination, we follow the injunctions, the rules and the regulations, then we become satisfied. We become fully satisfied, and that door opens, that lotus in the heart starts to expand, and all the different intricacies of our relationship with Krishna, written on each petal in our heart, start to expand. and open up, and the realizations of life come to us, right? Just like it said at the end of it. When we dedicate and surrender fully to Krishna, then we have that satisfaction. And then from that place, we give charity, right? Because in that place of purity, being so humbled and grateful for the gift that we've been given, then we share. That's the charity that we can give of the heart. And it's so important because, for our endeavor, Krishna gives us so much satisfaction. He reciprocates with that. So it's only natural that if we're been given such an amazing gift, it's only natural to give that gift to other people, right? And to share. And I'll give you just a quick thing because it's, we've got just a few minutes, but my sister came to visit me yesterday for a brief visit. She just popped in to see my dad. I'd told her a couple days ago I needed a hug. So she drives up from Atlanta, gets to see my parents, and then gives me a big hug. But anyway, one of the things that she did before she came is she had sent a birthday card to me. And on the birthday card, it had Jenna/Gopi Gibbs, and then my address. And it may seem like a really small thing, but for me, it was huge, because what it was is my sister had accepted my devotional life. She had accepted my devotional identity, and she was open to, her heart and her mind are open to seeing me through that identity. And so there's this small outreach. And then, she took the opportunity, as my japa beads have been, I've had them they're my initiation beads, and I've had them since initiation, so I've had them like 20 years. And they broke, and they needed to be strung, and they've probably been sitting there for, I don't know, a year, maybe a little, 8 months, something like that. So she sits down, she said, I'm going to string your beads. What needs to happen? And so she sat down, and with an hour had them strung. And, and I could just see, so in other words, this preaching and this outreach comes from, and the openness of others and this ability to give charity comes from our love of Krishna. And I'm not saying I'm a great lover of Krishna, but what I am saying is that through association with great devotees like our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, and Krishna, that can be reflected to a small degree. And other people to really appreciate that, right? Because they can see that we're trying to be genuine. And when we're trying to be genuine in our love with Krishna and our love and our association of the devotees, that allows other people, they're attracted to that. How can they not be attracted to that kind of love, that kind of purity? And we're just the vessel. It's none of it is due to our credit. All of it is due to Krishna and the spiritual master. And when we see through that lens, then our false ego doesn't get in the way, and then people can be really attracted and pulled in, and then we can slowly give Krishna consciousness. And I can see that with my sister over time, is that I've been supporting her through some really difficult struggles, and she's been helping me, is that she's become more and more open to Krishna consciousness, and she has been able to talk more about having a relationship with God. And, saying that I don't have anybody that I can really talk to about that, because nobody really understands that side of me. And so, these little things are charity. This is preaching. I'm not a frontline person. I'm just not. Tulsi, on the other hand, is. She's out there and going, and there are many devotees that do that. But in whatever way that we can share, keeping that mood of gratitude, trying to lose the pride, and seeing that everything comes from Krishna, we can develop that love like the residents of Vrindavan, and then share that love. So I don't know if anybody, we have about a minute, but just keep that gratitude, and especially with the chanting of the Maha Mantra, is try to make those 16 rounds, or those rounds, however many you're doing as you're starting out, is to make them as personal as possible. offer as much of your heart, your mind, and your body and your soul to Krishna when you're chanting those rounds, right? Because that's what's going to carry you back home, back to Godhead. Of course, the spiritual master, devotional service, and the association of the devotees, Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. So, I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or comments. We're pretty much out of time, but okay. So, all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the association of the devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Radha Golokananda Ki Jai.
Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Kanvandam Maravindadalayataksham Bharavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Andani Yasa Sakalen Priyavriti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adi Govindam.
I got to turn it off.
Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Namahom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Motalai Srimate Bhaktivedanta Samaniki Namanai Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gurmane Pacha, Nivesesha, Shunyavadi, Pashachade, Zatarine. Nuramani Pachane, Nivesesha, Shunyavadi, Pashachade. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Sivasadi Gauramatanda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadada Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Sivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Jano, Mavada Jano, Veda, Gadada Sivasadi, no Rata Venda, Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Ramanityananda, Veda. Sivasadi no Rata Vrinda Hare Krishna Chaitanya Hare Krishna Chaitanya Ramanityananda Sivadvaita Gadada Sivasadi no Rata Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sivadvaita Gadada Sivasadi no Rata Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, and Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Jai Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, and Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Jai Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Jai Jai. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Gokinana Radha, Gokinana Radha. Jaya Radha, Gokinana Radha, Gokinana Radha. Jaya Radha, hey, Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Radhe, hey, Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Srila Prabhupada Vijay. Islam founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Vijay. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Vijay. Namacharya Srila Thakur Vijay. Granth Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
prestige and ready to act and offer all respect. Almighty Lord, I have no desire to human love, nor do I desire to, nor do I want any number of followers.
I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth.
Thank you.
I am your eternal servitor.
Somehow or other I
Fall into this horrible ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.